This is Horror Sucks, the podcast where we watch bad horror movies so you don't have to. I'm Ashley Atkins, and I love dogs.
I'm Carter Rhodes, and I'm emotionally broken after watching the first 6 Friday the 13th.
We didn't get through 6. Did you watch?
God, no, I think we only made it through 5.
We only made it through 5.
So we really thought that we were going to be able to breeze through 20-something hours of Friday the 13th by today.
You think it's only 20? I guess so, yeah.
90 minutes, 13 movies.
Yeah, you're right.
So we were wrong.
Yeah.
Progress was slow.
To be fair, though, progress slowed down when you said, oh, let's watch them together versus alone. And
it's important. Otherwise, we're just kind of watching bad movies alone.
Which is what we do every week.
Yeah, but we watch one bad movie alone.
True.
Anyway, we are getting to Friday the 13th, but we could not.
It's been put on hold
for
maybe a few weeks to recover from the first 5.
Yeah. You guys haven't seen it, but we haven't recorded in like 2 weeks at this point because we've been trying to watch Friday the 13th.
I'm so drained. We were going to watch the other ones, but then like just the thought of it, I was like, and instead we watched an equally
50
bad
Shades
movie.
Of Grey, yeah. 50 Shades of Grey, I thought it was going to be much worse than it was.
It's really not that bad. We had a lot of fun, but most of our group are big Twilight fans, so that's what made it fun.
Yeah. It really is just Twilight with different names.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Anyway, so this movie is called Vivarium, and it was recommended to me by Maddie, my sister, the person who sometimes opens Spindrift with her teeth. We started watching some kind of a movie with my mom, and Maddie said one movie. First of all, she starts giving me advice on what our podcast should be about, and I'm like, "That's great. You should do that in your own podcast."
Wait, I want to hear what this advice was.
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
It wasn't. She kept pushing me to watch Vivarium, and I'm like, "Okay, we'll watch it." And she's like, why do I feel like you're not gonna watch it? I'm like, Maddie, I'm sitting here watching a movie. I'm not gonna like get up and record it right now. So this is us doing it because I said I would. Just because I didn't like immediately get on it. Anyway.
So I have a bone to pick with your sister.
Mm-hmm. Is it the?
It's because this isn't a horror movie, and she made the recommendation.
I actually disagree. I think it is a horror movie.
You do?
I do.
Okay. I'm surprised because it's a thriller, and according to you, thrillers don't fall under the horror care.
I don't think it's a thriller.
Okay. I think you'll have to defend your thought because let's not talk about it. Let's just get into it. So for those of you who are new here, how this works, we'll give the plot of the movie with spoilers. Then we will talk about some fun facts. Then we'll go into our favorite segment, the good, the bad, and the spooky.
It's our only segment.
That's what makes it great. And then we will give a rating as well as like our favorite line from the movie and maybe some overall impressions. And that's it.
All right. So why don't you take us away with the plot, Ashley?
Okay, great. So it opens up with this couple, Gemma and Tom. They work at a school together and they want to buy a house. So they meet up with Martin, who is a creepy real estate agent. He takes them to an idyllic suburb community called Yonder, which has just rows and rows of identical green houses.
It's like the Squidward's house place.
Yes, I couldn't think of. I wanted to like. It's also do you remember Doug Dimmadome?
No, I don't. I don't remember that.
There's like an episode of Fairly Odd Parents where they move into a creepy, idyllic neighborhood like this as well. But anyways, as they tour the house, Martin ditches them. And when they try to leave, they end up driving around for hours, coming back to the same house, number 9, and they realize they're trapped. But they refuse to give up. They really try to go through all their options. Tom tries to burn the house down and send a smoke signal, but the next day the house is still standing and there is a box with a baby inside that says, "Take care of it and you'll be released." So the child ages rapidly, and we see that by day 98, he appears to be about 8 years old. But something's not right with this kid. He talks really funny, and he imitates their voices, which is something that Martin had done while they were touring the house. And he also screeches when he wants to be fed. And I already mentioned it. His voice is just really, really weird. But Gemma and Tom are just kind of fed up with him. They don't like him. And one day, while trying to see who takes their box of trash away, Tom throws a lit cigarette onto the ground, and the grass repels, leaving like a clay dirt substance. And he grabs his tool and starts digging, and spends the rest of his movie digging a giant hole into the ground, pretty deep.
It's like he needs a ladder to get in and out, and like all of the ladder to get in and out. It's at least 20 feet deep. It's
really, really deep. Gemma embraces her role as a caregiver to the little boy, and one day he brings her a weird book in another language. I was debating if it was like an alien language or just not English, and I didn't know what it was, but it has diagrams of like how babies are made, sort of. And Gemma asks where he got it, and he says he couldn't tell her, so she asks him to mimic who gave it to him, and she freaks out when he starts making these weird otherworldly noises.
He makes this hissing noise, and like these two sacks swell up around his neck.
Yeah. And she freaks out, and then we cut to see the little boy has now grown to be a man, but Tom's health is deteriorating. Did I say that right?
Deteriorating?
Yeah, okay. I did say it right. So the boy locks Tom and Gemma out of the house, which causes Tom to suffer, and he dies. Gemma chases the boy and follows him through. He lifts up the sidewalk and crawls under, and she crawls under it and ends up in different realities where the same thing is happening to other people. And she suffers, and as she's kind of dying, her life force is being drained. She asks him why, and he says because she's a mother that raises boys and then puts her body into a body bag. And he tosses her body into the hole where he also put Tom's body, and then the very end, he shows back up at the real estate agent's office where Martin, the real estate agent, is on his last breath. He dies. The boy takes his name tag, puts it on, puts his body in a body bag, rolls him up, puts him in a desk, and you can kind of hear the body snake through vents, and a new couple walks in. And that's it.
So this movie was pretty quietly received. Not a lot of facts, not a lot of speech in general about what this movie was about. It was released in 2019, directed by Lorcan Finnegan. Lorcan Finnegan does not have a Wikipedia page. They have 2 movies, neither of which I recognized. I think they were really small indie movies. The film stars Jesse Eisenberg, who you might know from Zombieland, or Mark Zuckerberg from The Social Network, and Imogen Poots, who you might know from 28 Weeks Later, which is the sequel to 28 Days Later, and Need for Speed. Poots and Eisenberg also starred together in The Art of Self-Defense, another movie I haven't heard of. The film's rocking a 72% tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes, but a 38% audience score. It's about right. And the title, Vivarium, is Latin for a place of life. A vivarium is an enclosed area for keeping and observing animals and plants. Kind of the same idea as a terrarium, although it doesn't necessarily contain dirt, which is what terrarium refers to as dirt, or earth, rather. So, are we ready to talk about the good?
Yes.
The good. Dun, dun, dun. I absolutely loved the, monsters, whatever we want to call them. They were so well done. Their voices were insanely creepy.
Yes.
And it was clearly meant to be something imitating a human. Is they all dressed like characters from the Book of Mormon, where they short sleeve collared white shirt, black pants, slick back hair. It was very much just someone trying to draw what a normal man looks like. I can't even do imitation of the voice.
Well, they definitely put it
talk like
but that's, I think, a good exaggeration of what it was. They put a filter on this kid's voice. It's to the point where, like, at some points it kind of feels like he's talking normally. Other points it might even be someone else talking, but there was always kind of a vibration to it. Like almost like auto-tune, but it wasn't auto-tune, and I know that's just sounds bad. But also it never sounded right for the age until they were an adult.
It really was just something pretending to be human, and the voice captured that really well.
Yeah.
The screaming when it wanted food was, again, a good imitation of, like, a baby. You cry when you want food. It
wasn't just a scream. It was a screech to the point where, like, at some points it sounded like an animal, and then it would go back to the kid, like the kid voice, and then it would go back to sounding kind of like an animal, kind of not. It was insane. One of the things that I really liked, this movie is big on symbolism and foreshadowing. So the opening kind of credit scene was actually a video of the bird, a cuckoo?
A cuckoo.
Is it cuckoo?
Cuckoo, yeah.
The cuckoo bird is actually a parasitic bird. What they do is they invade birds' nests that are smaller than them. They'll kick out one of their eggs and lay their egg, and then without the mother knowing, and then once the cuckoo comes to age or the hatches,
it hatches a lot faster than most other birds,
and it kicks out all the other birds in the nest, so that way the mother will feed it the food she collected for all the other birds, and then also it makes a sound to kind of keep the mother going to feed get food all day, so that it comes back with tons and tons of food, and then eventually I'm pretty sure it kills off the mother bird as well. Or maybe it just leaves the egg.
I think it just leaves. But
you're right.
Anyway, that's actually where the word cuckold comes from.
Oh.
Same root, because they would lay their eggs and expect someone else to raise them.
I did not know that. But I thought it was good symbolism through the movie.
The opening was really good. On your topic of symbolism, Gemma had a owl air freshener type thing hanging off her rearview window.
Yes.
And I picked up on that. There's a lot of bird imagery.
Yes.
I have some thoughts on the opening, but I'll get to that. Overall, it was a pretty good opening, and interestingly, before the scene of the Cuckoo Bird, it was just absolute silence as it rolled the, like, film house, the director, the opening credits. It was really
impactful.
Yeah, it was tense.
Yeah. I think the opening did a good job of setting the scene, or setting the tense of the movie.
And in general, the sound design throughout the movie was really good. The audio would switch whenever the camera moved, but not in a bad way. Like, there would be a shot. There's one scene where they're dancing outside the car, kind of just trying to stay sane. And so there's a shot from inside the car, and it's loud. And then there's a shot from outside the car, and it's a little quieter. And then there's a shot from the kid watching from inside, and it's muffled. It was really great design.
The sound design was definitely rooted in reality. The other thing I liked too, when they were doing the echo scene, at one point they get lost from each other, and this is right before Tom dies, and their voices are just echoing as there's like a fog. And I thought the sound design of that was pretty good, because there was also a delay with the echoes, and like it was hard to kind of trust with the echoes. It made it definitely very creepy.
What else did you like about the movie?
I thought there were some really good camera shots. I thought the filming overall was pretty decent. Specifically, there is one shot of Tom. They're trying to leave, and as they're, that he's driving, and he pulls over and he smokes a cigarette, and he throws it out the window, and it just lands on the pavement, and we get a close up of like the deteriorated cigarette. And I thought that was a pretty good shot. But overall, I think the filming and the quality was good.
Agreed. I also really liked the champagne shot where they opened up the like housewarming gift because they were hungry, and it was champagne and strawberries, and it's like this super close-up shot of them filling the glass of champagne. That was a really good shot. And then the overhead as it follows the camera as they try to escape from the neighborhood, and it's just like a maze. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Also, in the final scene when she's kind of falling through the different realities, I thought they did a really good job of filming that. But then also...
They did like a Pennywise-style tracking shot on her. It was interesting.
Yeah, it was very disorienting to the watcher, and then... But it put you in the shot because it was disorienting for the character. So I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. I cannot stress enough how much I enjoyed the plot of the movie.
Yeah. It
was constant rising action, and I could tell pretty quickly the direction the movie was going in, but I was still hooked the entire time. It had my attention up until the very end. Yes,
I will say, I also agree. It wasn't high action throughout. It was always rising, which was it created a lot of tension. Like I was kind of watching it and doing something else, and I had a hard time doing the other thing because I was so invested in this movie. I also really liked the plot. Although that being said, it also kind of felt a little deja vu. Like I felt like I had seen something similar. I don't know what though. And not necessarily similar specific, but maybe it was just like a similar just like feeling because we've seen kind of that idyllic neighborhood in media before, just not in this specific way. So maybe that's why.
It's not a terribly original idea. Idyllic neighborhood turns out to be evil. That's from everything. And then, you're trapped somewhere. No matter what you do, just for some supernatural reason, you always end up right back where you started. That's also been everywhere.
Yeah.
So it, at its core, wasn't terribly original. So I'm sure we've seen bits and pieces of this movie.
One thing I really liked how they showed the boy aging. Because, we see a baby and then immediately we see just a small child. And I really liked the way they showed how much time had progressed was through the classic, let's see how tall you are today kind of kid in the doorway thing. And I thought that was very clever. And then, of course, we just skip to him sitting at a table and he's in a man. And I wish there was something more interesting there, but I really liked the first transition.
So that's everything I wanted to say about The Good.
I really liked how creepy it was.
It was very spooky throughout the movie. I quite liked it.
I had a hard time picking like a specific spooky thing, but in general.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. All right, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Yeah. We've got some stuff to talk about.
So, are you ready to talk about the bad?
Yes. The bad.
Okay, so I don't have a lot for the bad, because the few issues I have are so absurdly glaring that I just don't have much more. Number one, the film built to nothing. Yeah. It was all rising action, and then at the end, it revealed nothing. We knew for very soon that this thing wasn't human, that Martin from the beginning was involved in this, and so the end where he replaces Martin wasn't even like a plot twist. It was kind of just showing what we already knew.
I agree. Was I surprised that Martin was dead and that he was coming in to wrap him up? A little, but like it felt like it didn't feel unnatural to be like, okay, this is how it's concluding.
It's no more unexpected to me than if Martin was wearing a different shirt. Is like, oh, I didn't realize Martin was dying as opposed to not being dead.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I have to agree. I guess the action was her figuring it out, but
the movie's also this awful mix of science and supernatural. I liked the science interpretation of him being some kind of a creature that imitates a human, but he's got this book with this made-up language that he lifts the sidewalk, and that's how he gets to other dimensions. And then on top of that, there's the very physical explanation of them putting their trash in a box and receiving a box every day. With food, it just couldn't commit to anything. I would have liked either one that's based in reality, like there's this creature imitating humans living among us. That would have been cool. I would have been fine. I wouldn't have liked it as much, but I would have been fine if it was this supernatural creature living among us. But
I think it was crossing the lines and it didn't know where it wanted to be. I really did like how they went into the different realities, but the fact that he lifts the sidewalk off kind of... Like, I wish instead that he went into a different house and, like, went into the basement and opened a secret door. And, like, that to me would have made a lot more sense, I think.
It's no weirder to me than any random house being able to be used as a doorway for him. He clearly has that ability to pass through dimensions, so he could use anything as a doorway, but...
I guess.
But I really did hate that it was, like... alternate dimensions mixed with this creature that has these bulging sacs under its neck. It was just a terrible mix. Third, the Cuckoo opening didn't hint at anything. It was the plot in its entirety. That was what it was. There was no reveal. It didn't set the mood. It just showed you what was going to happen.
Okay, so in my perspective, I didn't realize or make that connection until after I looked it up.
Okay.
So, like, for me, I didn't know. I mean, it made sense after the fact, and I was like, oh, I get it, like, LOL. I wish instead they kind of did the opposite, where they had the whole movie, and then we saw the cuckoo, or something else, or just, like, I wish it was a little bit more subtle, I guess.
I think the best way, because I loved the opening, I think the best way would have been to make him be anything other than, like, literally just the human equivalent of a cuckoo bird, is... They're forced to raise him in a very literal way.
Yeah.
He imitates the cuckoo bird by imitating them. Like, he will say things with their voice, which, by the way, happens often and never builds to anything.
No.
Like, when they were in the fog, I thought it was going to be a plot point that he's imitating them, luring them away. Nope. He, like, screams when he wants food, just like a baby bird, and just sits there and waits to be fed.
I hated it. I hated the screaming.
It was spooky, but from an artistic perspective, it was dumb.
Yeah.
Not even from an artistic perspective. From the concept of it's just a cuckoo bird. Like...
I think it would have been more creepy and interesting if he started screaming for no reason, versus... they want to feed him.
I would say screaming for no reason is a little cheesy.
Maybe.
There's at least an explanation for this. Because then he would scream for seemingly no reason, and that we kind of had to deduce that he wanted something. And like when Gemma tries to put him to bed and he just starts screaming, and she's like, "What do you want?" I didn't know what he wanted, but I could only assume that it was some kind of need that we didn't understand because he's this foreign creature.
Right.
Or that he wanted maternal love or something that he wasn't getting.
I think that's, yeah. I don't know. I just, there are some issues.
It was the entire plot.
So I think part of that, and again, this was in my research, part of in the last scene when she's like asking him why, and then she says, "Oh, I'm not your mother," and he says, "Whatever," and he doesn't say it in her voice, and previously he had said it in her voice. So I think part of the mimicking was just to emphasize that he's, acclimating to like normal speech, and then we get like what pisses me off is we get one word of it. Well, that he's mastered it versus the mimicking.
I will say, though, I should have interrupted you.
That's okay.
I watched it with subtitles on, and it did say he was mimicking her voice. So it probably just didn't carry with the single word, but he did say it in her voice.
Okay. Well, so I think, I don't know, because it sounded like his own voice. I was watching it with subtitles,
because it was just one word.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. I don't know. But it really didn't lead to much.
Yeah.
it kind of annoyed me. But also, the mimicking in general just really annoyed the crap out of me.
I did enjoy it because it was, I don't know, I liked it. It's a creature that's mimicking humans, so of course it's doing it on a micro and macro level.
Oh, I mean, I'm not... Story-wise, it makes a lot of sense. I just, just annoyed me. I understood the importance of it. It just was something that I was just like, ugh.
Another bad thing. I've made it through my 3, really furious points
I'm with you.
Tanked the movie for me. I'm pretty sick of the mom loves creature, dad hates it trope.
Yeah.
I'm just bored with it. Fucking Brightburn does it.
So many movies and TV do it. It's an old, worn out trope.
Yeah. And it just...
We're beyond that
thankfully, this
as
movie,
a society.
Yeah, thankfully this movie didn't commit to it. It was only for a little bit, and then when he did his, shriek thing, she realized he was inhuman and went back to not mothering him.
Yeah.
But, man, it was just so uninteresting. It was just such a boring take. It's I don't know. It's I guess I don't have anything to add to it.
It wasn't good.
It bored me.
So one thing that I really didn't like, the hole. I kind of just felt like it was a device to take dad out of the situation to focus on the mother-son relationship. And while I understand as a plot point the use of it, it really, I don't know, I feel like it pulled the movie back in not a good way.
I didn't hate the use of the hole because if I was in his position, where the hole being, once you start digging the hole, unlike every other attempt to escape, this one didn't close up overnight or anything. I understand why he was doing it. My issue was when he got to the bottom and he found the bodies, presumably from previous times, where at the end, when he was killed and Gemma was killed, they were put in there. It makes no sense that it would be cyclical.
Yeah.
There was nothing about the lawn previously that made him want to dig there. It was just, there was no reason to believe this digging a hole would continue. The general pattern could continue, but where they raise someone else, but the hole in the ground, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of just, I agree. It led to nothing. And what I understand the point was, even though they think they found a way out, it also, the others, doesn't do anything. It just, to me, it was ugh. You wasted all this time in this movie highlighting this hole for nothing.
So...
Are we done with the bad?
No, I still have a...
Oh, keep going.
This one, these next two are a little nitpicky. Oh, well, first, the cinematography during the montages was really over the top. It would, show a shot of the sun, and then it would fade in a Jesse Eisenberg's face, and then it would phase in Gemma's face. It was really how do we make sure they know, the audience knows that they're not having a good time? It was dumb. When he flicks his cigarette onto the lawn, it's really bad special effects. It becomes stop motion, and you can immediately tell that it's stop motion.
Which is interesting because when the boy is done filling the hole and the grass fills in the spot, it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of pretty seamless to the point where I barely noticed it. I don't know.
And then lastly, in the beginning of the movie, I have two parts to this. First of all, after the cuckoo opening, it cuts to Gemma, teaching her second graders, and then after class, there's a girl staring at a bird that was killed by the cuckoo bird. And Gemma
they could have done that.
Explains the whole thing a second time. Yeah.
They could have just left it as she finds the birds and she's, oh, it could have been a cuckoo. That's the way of life. And that's it.
Yeah.
We could have left it at that. I think that would have been a perfect, hey,
Agreed.
hint, versus
here's what the movie's about. Here's what it's about a second time. Now here's the movie.
In case you didn't get it before.
Yeah. So that's part one of my issue. My second problem is Jesse Eisenberg appears to pick her up because they're going house shopping, and they see the bird, and, he's being a goofball, but he is a little upset about it. So he digs a little hole for the bird to, bury it. He digs this bird an insulting grave. I would haunt you guys if that's how you buried me.
He covers the bird in grass.
Yeah, and it, not even really covered it. You could still see the bird under maybe a quarter inch of dirt.
Listen.
Rounding up.
As a non-handy person, he didn't even dig a hole. He just kind of scraped the surface of the dirt and was like, oh, there you go. You don't have to look at it anymore. And it's like, we're still seeing it.
Yeah.
And I think that was just a direction choice to say, hey, let's move it quickly. But it doesn't take much to dig 2 holes, to take 2 scoops of earth to actually bury it.
There's no reason that as a director's choice, it should have been done like that.
I don't know.
Because Jesse Eisenberg wasn't in frame. It was his hands burying the bird. He did have dialogue, but it's so easy to reshoot that in that scenario.
Yeah.
You don't see him. You don't see his mouth move. He doesn't gesture with his hands. He just buries the bird. And if you didn't like that, you could cycle through the takes until Jesse Eisenberg nailed the line. There's no excuse for it. I mean, I guess there's excuses. It's a minor detail that we're complaining about. But
which, I think it says a lot about the movie, though, that it wasn't all that bad if we're complaining about minor details.
Right. Well, we're complaining about minor details because we had 3 huge movie-ruining complaints about this movie. So. I can't stress enough. We didn't have a lot of complaints, and our complaints were so strong, they ruined the movie.
That's a good point. All right. Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. Let's move on to the spooky.
The spooky!
I didn't really pick anything specific for it. I want to hear what you put.
I said that just Martin and the kid, especially when we first see the kid, it's fucking terrifying.
It's also kind of funny.
He's shrieking. He's mimicking their voices. It's the scariest thing I've ever seen. The movie I noticed a little bit of an alien vibe from it, in the alien part of the horror is that it's supposed to be an analogy for sexual assault. There's a lot of phallic imagery. There's the fact that you are quite literally impregnated by this foreign creature, which then destroys your body when it leaves. I got a lot of that from this. Is these people were literally being forced to raise a child that they didn't want, that they wanted out of their life.
Yeah.
They were literally held hostage by this child.
Okay, that's an interesting point. I like that. I thought just the boy was pretty creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Martin himself. Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. I thought the same things were creepy. I feel like I have no opinion this episode, but I don't know. It just
this is gonna be a tough one because we're gonna have back to back. Just meh. We don't have the fire in a
because I feel like there's not much to really get heated about in this movie. There's not. I guess we can move on to our impressions unless.
Yeah.
My thing was I didn't really hate it. Mm-hmm. I actually enjoyed.
I quite enjoyed it.
I enjoyed watching it, and to be honest, at the end, I had to sit and think of whether or not I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. It does kind of make you think, and this movie overall, I do think kind of makes you think and really kind of ponder what was going on. But there wasn't really anything. There's no really call to action in the movie. It just kind of presents itself from start to finish, and then that's it. And I think that kind of is what we mentioned when we said that, like, it leads to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, we're just kind of like, yeah, this movie exists. It was a good watch. Like, there's not really much else to say, at least in my opinion. But
my thoughts on this movie is that it's an outstanding movie that just couldn't stick the landing, but it couldn't stick the landing in such a way where it ruined the previous parts of the movie.
Yeah.
It was like climbing a staircase and then falling off because there's no second floor. Is you don't get credit for building the staircase. That's how bad it was. It wasn't. I climbed it to get to the shitty second floor. Is I then fell and I'm back on the ground. Doesn't matter how good the staircase is.
It's all the characters' fault too.
Yeah, I was captivated, but the movie just kind of petered out. And then I cannot stress enough that the cuckoo analogy was the movie. They told us what was going to happen.
Yeah. I kind of wish they left that a little bit more to interpretation.
So my Joseph DeStasio Memorial line highlight, and this one was tricky, but I finally managed to find one, is when they're touring the house, Martin asks, "Do you have any children?" And I quite enjoyed that line, looking back on it, because cuckoo birds will push out eggs, but also any living chicks. So the implication was that if they did have children, they probably would have been killed.
Interesting. Okay. All right. I have a rating. It's honestly not very exciting. It is 5 similar white picket fence houses.
Yeah. I gave it 2. Yeah, it sucks when someone doesn't finish their thought, right? When there's no ending. It's kind of lame.
I mean, I knew that's what you were going to say, but like, just oh 2. My God, I hate you.
It really does suck, doesn't it?
You have to imagine that silence just occurred, but Carter and I were making full eye contact.
Yeah, and we're probably going to cut the silence for... Because it was a solid, 15 seconds of silence.
You can cut it down to, a second.
No.
No?
In fact, I'm going to double it. We're going to have 30 straight minutes of silence.
All right. Well, that's this movie. Not excited about it. I would have been more excited to talk about the movies that shall not be named for a later date.
I really am excited to talk about Friday the 13th.
Listen, I don't think it would have been good for you or us to continue on the immediate journey of watching the rest of the movies.
Agreed.
I think the episode would have been ruined because we would have been so jaded. So we will get there. We promise. I think this is the first time we're actually apologizing for not following through what we said.
Well, usually the timeline's so chaotic that we have no idea what they're going to be hearing.
We've kind of jumped out of the time machine because of this. Usually
it's going to get worse because we're approaching the Halloween season where they're releasing all the horror movies, which means every single one we're going to be reviewing is going to have the fastest turnaround time possible.
Oh yeah, it's going to suck. Listen, I did my job. I planned it out for us.
Yeah.
For the most part. I set up the plan. You can fill in the blanks for some places. But listen, I was like, we're going into spooky season, which, by the way, this is our September 1st episode.
It's actually August 31st.
Well, I mean, this is our beginning of September 1st episode, which is what I meant to say. And so I was like, oh, let's kick off kind of Sparta's early spooky season with a good episode, which is why I recommended the Friday the 13th anthology. And now here we are.
We'll finish it. So I think we should reward anyone who's listened to the end by giving our thoughts on the 50 Shades of Grey movie.
Oh my God.
So what do you think?
I mean, we had a really good time. So to be fair, most of us, I don't know if you were, most of us were pretty intoxicated at that point.
Every single one of us.
Okay. I had a great time.
Except I think Ian wasn't drinking.
Oh, that's right.
Because of stomach problems.
He had a good time, though.
Yeah.
So I guess we could probably say that sober and drunk, it was pretty good. But I will say, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I don't know if we talked about this on this podcast before, but one of our hobbies is buying these random gift bags from Bull Moose, which will have just random CDs in it. And we found a 100-pack of DVDs. So that's what we did, is we rushed from a restaurant to get to Bull Moose before it closed.
I haven't forgiven you for that.
Really? After we pulled... All right. So, let's put a pin in that thought. So, we rushed, we got our 100-pack, and we opened it together. And between us, we managed to pull the entire 50 Shades of Grey trilogy. Now, you tell me that wasn't worth it.
Okay, all right. That was pretty, honestly, incredible. Because you have to imagine, though, we weren't just, like, going through the movies left and right. We each got a pile and went through one by one.
A pile of 20, yeah?
Yeah, in order of CDs. It was DVDs. It was not 20 exactly because we did not do the math. And at the end...
We would split it out, so it was 20, but literal piles.
The joy of just going, 50 Shades of Grey, the third one, and then someone pulled the second one and it was like, ooh, and then the amount of joy when we pulled the first one out was like, oh my god, it was pretty up there in terms of joy.
You know, at a sports game when, like, and I'm a sports fan. I know me saying a sports game makes it sound like I'm not, but I am. You know, when something happens and no one's like has a chant going or anything, they're just like, just like stomping their feet, just making noise. We were doing that. We were just like pounding the table, shouting.
Oh my god. We got so loud when that first one was played. It was like, luckily no one else was home.
We were hyped.
It's great. And I mean, to be honest, the movie didn't let down the hype. We had fun. Mm-hmm. I can't say if it was good or not because I didn't objectively watch it, but I thoroughly had a great time watching it. We talked over it and that's that Twilight scene. Oh, that was the best part. Yeah. It was so funny.
He was, yeah.
I got roasted. It was great.
It was you got roasted? When was that?
When I made a comment about my type that I go for.
Oh yeah. What was it again?
Oh, the main guy is like, I'm effed up in the head, and I was like, LOL, heard that before.
Yeah.
And you and our other friend Kate were like, what? Like appalled, and I was like,
Yeah, that's what we like to call a red flag.
I'm aware.
And if that's
it's not just a red flag. It's like 5 red flags. It's the red flag.
Well, it's not even just effed in the head red flag. It's guy who thinks it's cool to be effed in the head red flag, who's effed in the head, but not in the way that he thinks he's effed in the head. He's not like, I'm such a tortured guy. Usually it's just, I hate women.
Listen, I'm trying to do better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I came up with a Kevin Bacon style litmus test, which is if some dude is worse than me, like I'm not a catch. If some dude's worse than me, don't date him. Like,
I think
if he's better than me, he's probably pretty good.
I think you set the bar at a decently good place, Carter.
The word I would use is mediocre. It implies average, but there's still a connotation to it.
Don't sell yourself so short, okay?
So let's see. Where are some other highlights of the movie? The fact that he's a billionaire and he says that he's only had sex with 15 women.
My god.
And the movie's like, isn't that crazy how many women this guy's slept with? I'm like, as a billionaire?
Considering she's a virgin. Also, let's talk about how they... I mean, no, we're not going to talk about it.
No, let's talk about it.
I was just going to talk about his trauma and how they kind of idolize that. And she's like, hold up, you were... what as a 15-year-old?
Oh, yeah.
He was so great. He's like, I'm still friends with her. And it was like, what? Yeah. You were
abused as a child, essentially.
Yes. Not essentially, literally.
Yeah. I haven't seen the sequel, so it's possible they elaborate on it, and I'm making myself look like a fool, but if being a fool means not knowing anything about 50 Shades of Grey, then call me a fool.
Listen, whether they elaborated on it or not, he was 15 when he was
presumably statutory raped.
I was trying to think of a word for like
she was
preyed upon. He was preyed upon
sure,
by an older woman. You can't tell me we can't just ignore that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so surprised that this movie has not gotten this. I'm so surprised the book series went to a movie with this premise.
Well, yeah, and I thought that was interesting because I thought they were going to try to tackle the fact that this shaped what his idea of sex was, is this power dynamic. But they didn't elaborate on that, really. They kind of...
They brushed past it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what's elaborated on in the other movies, because she kind of leaves him. Mm-hmm. And maybe he's like, oh, I got to work on myself and my trauma. This is what I'm hoping for the next movie. I got to work on myself and my trauma so that I can be a functioning human being. But probably not.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I've seen enough SVU to know that is not okay.
Yeah, she's gonna end up in his hunting lodge basement somewhere in Wyoming.
Oh my God, no.
It's crazy to me how little this movie understood BDSM, but they did a pretty good job of painting this guy's complex relationship just through what he relayed to Dakota Johnson. Is like, he gets dinner with this woman who abused him pretty frequently. She's like an important part of his life. From a storytelling perspective, though, that really does paint doesn't it paint the image of this guy who has to keep her in his life, or he'll have to face the fact that he was abused. Oh, yeah.
You're right. It does a really good job of doing that, of presenting that kind of dynamic, that it's still going on as an adult, as he is an adult and has supposedly moved on from it to become not an abuser. I wouldn't say he's an abuser, but he has become into that.
I would say he's an abuser, but finish your thought.
Well, he's switched the power dynamic.
Sure, yeah.
Part of that, he felt he was a willing participant in this submissive, dominant relationship. So he moved into the dominant role. So he feels he gained control of his life, but he still keeps her around, which shows that like he hasn't actually moved past that.
And then on top of that, him moving into this power dynamic, since it isn't from, how do I put this? Since it isn't from a kink perspective, he's not trying to make people feel good. That's kind of why he's a bad dom, is that it's for his own purpose of fixing his trauma. And I thought that would be interesting if the movie elaborated on that and said, he's a bad dom because this is how he's taking out his feelings of being abused. Whereas instead, they just committed to, he is into BDSM because he was abused, which is garbo take.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm like, really.
This is, by the way, going to be the highlight of the episode. I hope you know.
For sure.
Is our little bonus for the listeners.
I really hope you guys enjoy this. I really just want to watch the rest of the series and see how it goes, because I'm very curious to see if they actually tackle these huge issues they presented.
So I ended up seeing the trailer for the third movie.
Okay.
Before I knew it was 50 Shades of Grey. And they painted it like such an exciting thriller. She's like moving into a house with Christian Grey.
Yes.
And dealing with the fact that I think it was the woman who might have abused him. Just looking back on it, it's this like realtor who seems to be a little flirty with
Okay,
Grey.
I've also seen this, and I don't think it's the woman who abused her. I think it's just like jealousy being presented.
Anyway, she's jealous of the realtor. They're moving in together, so there's probably some unconscious pressure to have a baby. And then on top of that, her ex starts like stalking her. And so now she's trying to keep that a secret from her husband. And it looked like this thriller of this woman just getting overwhelmed by all this stuff. And I was like, wow, this looks neat. And it goes, 50 Shades Free. And I'm like, fuck! fuck!
I actually want to get back to the movie because there was one thing I remember that I forgot about. A huge issue I have.
Oh, wait, with Vivarium?
No, with 50 Shades of Grey.
I was about to say, I don't want to talk about Vivarium. I want to talk about 50 Shades of Grey.
There was another issue I have, and I think this has to go along with his abuse is that he requests that she signs a contract before they do anything, but she refuses to. She agrees to like go into this with him, but then he's like, sign this contract, and she's like, I need to think about it. And yet he still kind of puts her in this situation and starts kind of doing these things to her. And like, while she does say yes, she gives consent, he wanted written consent. And that to me was kind of like, well,
I really did enjoy that, because from a surface level, I would understand why a billionaire might want that. But also, it's his subconscious way of like making sure he's not actually abusing anyone.
I liked the idea of the contract. There's a
written line of what he is and isn't allowed to do, and for him that is like, provides comfort knowing that she is okay with it. She said she was okay with it. I can't be abusing her.
No. I liked the idea of the contract. She never signed it. They started...
Which is one of the 50 Shades of Grey, is it's, instead of it being black and white, it's not gray. As bad as I thought it would be. It's like...
No.
If it were done by a better director...
I think it could have been...
It could have been really good.
I don't disagree with you. I also...
The book would have had to have been written by a better writer, to be
also
honest.
True. So I did look at some of the differences between the book and the movie because I'm very curious. And I guess it gets into a lot more detail.
Yeah, I mean... Which
is to be expected. And there's
we can't expect... we can't expect just full penetration in our...
No,
what is it,
not.
R-rated movie?
Yeah, I think it was R. No, I just mean like there was like more scenes. Like there were more sex scenes versus like the 2 we got.
It would have, any more would have been a lot.
Yeah, I think I really do think they cut it down to like the perfect amount.
The movie did actually do a pretty good job of like shooting around the sex. It never felt like they were too shy to show anything. But they didn't have sex scene after sex scene after sex scene.
Let's put it this way. We were in a room of 5 friends did not feel super uncomfortable throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
Like, there was a sex scene, but like we could sit and laugh about it. And then it just kind of moved on. Like kept a good pace, I would say.
Can we talk about their families? It was wild. So her mom couldn't make her graduation because her stepdad was injured. We find out that her dad died when she was a child. And so, her stepdad can't make it. But then this like father figure did make it, and they hugged, and we were like, wait, who's he? Apparently he's her previous stepdad.
We had to look that up.
Yeah.
That was not super clear in the movie.
I'm all for unconventional families, but this was, from a storytelling perspective, not well explained. And then it followed it up with Christian Grey also confessed that his parents died, but then he was adopted by a family, which was at least better explained.
Yeah.
But between the two of them, they have at least 3 levels of surrogate parents, possibly 4. Didn't it say that her mom got divorced and then the guy was her second stepdad?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the guy who got injured was the 3rd stepdad.
Maybe. Either way, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
That's what they have in common. Interesting family dynamics.
Mm-hmm. What a bizarre movie. We saw Dong, didn't we?
What?
We saw Dong.
Did we?
We saw part of...
We saw the very top.
Top. Right. The base. The trunk, if you will.
Sure.
We saw the trunk. I remember Kate was shouting something about feminism succeeding. I feel like we must have seen his full penis.
I don't think we did. I think we got...
Kate wouldn't have whipped that out unless we really did.
That was clearly a joke.
Well, yeah, but she wouldn't have said it unless... www.isdoweseedongin50shadesofgrey.com.
I have bad news for you. You do not see Christian Grey's penis in 50 Shades Darker.
Wait, This wasn't 50 Shades Darker. This was 50 Shades, though.
The original 50 Shades of Grey was infamous for only giving viewers the tiniest glimpse, a dash of shaft, of Christian Grey's penis. This is from The Vulture.
Dash of shaft. That's poetry.
So yes, we got a dash of shaft.
We did.
Which, you know what? It's a lot more than...
It gave us a taste and leaves us wanting more. That's my take on 50 Shades of Grey.
I think we can leave it there.
Okay. So I'm glad we managed to get at least one good movie conversation out of this.
Yeah, thank God.
It wasn't looking good when we finished up whatever this garbage is.
We don't like to leave you guys hanging.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I can't even think of the actor who played Christian Grey. Hayden Panettiere.
That okay.
That's not her. Anyway.
All right. What are we going to watch next week?
If we can finish all 13 Friday the 13th,
Let's not
we
make...
only have 7 left. Then we'll do that. Otherwise, what will we watch, Ashley?
This was technically my pick. Should we?
Honestly, I wonder if we should watch Black Phone. Capitalize on the limited popularity.
Is it popular?
It's at least recent enough that people recognize the name.
Or we could do a Resident Evil movie.
Ooh. Wow. Love Resident Evil. Great franchise. God, you really put me in a tough spot. I have to choose between Resident Evil or a movie that I think will actually be well received by Horror Sucks.
So, time out though, because we could save Resident Evil and do a similar anthology for all the movies.
Yes. What if I told you there was less movies, but a Netflix TV show that was canceled after 1 season?
Oh, we're watching it.
Okay. Let's do a Resident Evil anthology.
All right, so we're doing Black Phone next week?
Let's do it.
All right. You heard it here first, folks.
All right, this one's for you, Mila Jovovich.
Okay.
She was in that movie. You know that, right?
Sure.
Just from context, you could tell.
I mean, yes, I knew. Okay. I knew. From context, I knew. Yes, okay. Of course. All right. You've also mentioned it before.
Yeah, because I'm in love with Mila Jovovich.
All right. Thank you, everyone who listened, especially the ones who made it this far.
Yeah, you're welcome if you made it this far. I bet you were thinking it was going to suck after we talked about Vivarium.
That's objective.
Yeah.
Anyway, please make sure to rate and review and subscribe. Add us on Instagram where I post some stuff sometimes. Trying to get better at that. And
stay spooky.
Horror Sucks is brought to you by Wild Thing Media. Production and music done by me and editing done by Carter. Thanks for listening.